Follow your intuition. This is probably an advice you have heard 1,000 times, and deep down you know is something you should do, you should follow, but you don't really know how. How does it really feel like to make an intuitive decision, and how can you tell it apart from a more logical decision? And yeah, what does it actually really mean to be intuitive, and what will that do for you in your life? So in this video, I want to give you an overview on intuition from a shamanic point of view, or at least what I think it is in a shamanic point of view, and also how you can strengthen your intuition so that in the future you can make sure that you really base your decision upon your own intuition. Hi, for those of you who are new here, my name is Maddie. I'm a biologist and author and a shamanic practitioner. And on my channel, Shamanic Wisdom, it's all about shamanism and how you can implement shamanic methods in your everyday life to make it more happy and fulfilled. I start with a personal story about intuition that just recently happened to me to show you what intuition really does for you and how you can tell it apart from other parts of your decision making. I was recently on a workshop, that was kind of a conference that was a whole day in Germany, in South Germany. It was about personal development, coaching, spirituality, how you can make money on a spiritual level, all these kind of questions. And I was really excited about it. So I was there with a friend of mine and we were sitting there, and all of a sudden I had that deep urge just right after the first speaker started talking to leave the room. That urge was so intense. I felt it in my whole body. It was like someone was just pulling me up from my chair and pushed me out of the room. And I was like, what the hell is this? I was not even thinking about it. I was just leaving, literally in the middle of the talk of this person. And it was the weirdest thing. But everything in me kind of was really having a strong resistance against this person and what this person was telling in that very moment. I was not even really conscious of what was the reason for me leaving. That was just that very, very strong feeling of me, like, I have to leave now. And so interestingly, I left the room. I felt really bad about it too, because, being a speaker myself, that's the worst thing to experience if you're on a stage and you can see people are leaving the room in the middle of your talk. And I felt really bad about it. But at the same time, I just couldn't help myself. This is what I had to do in that very moment. And so I left the room, and later on I realized, because people were telling me what's happening on stage, that this person actually started asking people, like the audience, to merge with other people. And if you're following me for a while on my channel, you know that merging with someone else, whether it's a spirit or it's a person, or a person also has a spirit, but just the bare act of merging with someone is something you have to be very, very, very careful with, because you never know whom you're merging with, unless it is like a really like your own spiritual, your spirit animal, or it's your spiritual teacher, that a person you really, really know really well, so you know what's coming at you when you're merging with this person. And this person, like the speaker on the stage, really asked everyone in the audience to merge with either with him or with someone else. And that was really a no-go for me. Never ever would have done that. So I felt like my whole system, my whole body, my spirit was protecting me from this experience, because I think in the moment that it would have really happened, maybe I would have not been able to just leave like that. Everyone was standing. It was in the middle of like a little ceremony, even they had like the drums. So the whole thing was really set up big. And once a ritual is starting, it is hard to really, get out of this as easy. So later on, I realized that this intuitive decision I made in that moment to leave the room was the exact right thing for me, because it was protecting me from something I didn't want to experience, I was scared about, and I knew that this is not good for me. And interestingly, I wasn't the only person who had that urge to leave in that very moment. There were 3 more women also leaving the room at the same time, the same urge that I did. And so when we were outside the audience, like the speaker room, the conference room, we were just exchanging why we all of a sudden had to leave. And we all had the same feeling that something will happen that is not good for us, that we have to leave right now. It doesn't feel good. That was the main thing that we all shared. It didn't feel good in that very moment for us, and we really had to leave. So with that little story, I want to give you a definition of what intuition actually is and how you can, recognize it when it comes across you. I started researching a bit because for those of you who know me a bit longer, I'm a scientist by background, so I like to read scientific papers and, just like the whole research about it. And lo and behold, there is a lot of research on the topic of intuition, which I found very interesting. And I started, piling through the papers and just really trying to find a good definition. And I found it interesting because there were a lot of definitions. I found a lot of papers, but just with a lot of other topics, it is not really clear, or like the scientists, specifically psychologists, are not really clear upon what intuition really is. But I found 3 points that were repeatedly mentioned when I was looking for a definition for intuition. And here we go. The first point is that intuition is a non-conscious information processing. So we gotta go a bit more into detail about that one. Let it sink in for a second. It's a non-conscious information processing. So just take it apart a little bit. Non-conscious means that there must also be a conscious part within of us. And psychologists compare it like that the way we make our decisions is split apart in two parts. We have the conscious part of our mind, of our decision making, which is really very logical. It is driven by rules and social rules, social morals. Is something that we really think about and logically kind of think about it. And the other part is the so-called unconscious part of our decision making. You can really imagine it like being an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg, this is the conscious part. The unconscious part is the whole thing underneath the water of the iceberg that we can't see, but it's much, much bigger. It's a much bigger part of the iceberg. And so it seems to be the same thing with our decision making when we compare it with conscious versus unconscious behavior. And so the unconscious behavior is something that is more automatic. It is instinctive. If you look on the brain part of this whole thing, then we can really pinpoint it to a very old part of our brain. It's called the reptilian brain, which the name just says is something that also reptilians already have. So it's a very old part of evolutionary part of our brain that is responsible for a lot of automatic reactions. For example, just the whole way our body works is very automatic. You don't need to consciously decide to make your heart beat, to take the next breath, or to swallow, or to blink. This is something on an unconscious level happens all the time. And this is a good thing because, we would be occupied all the time just thinking about blinking now, swallowing now, breathing now. So this is a good thing, right? And also this whole fight or flight reaction, something when we feel we're threatened by something. It's not something you really have to think about logically. It's like, oh, should I flee now or should I do this? And you've probably really realized a lot of times in your life where there was a situation where you might have been in danger and all of a sudden you made a very, very quick decision unconsciously. You were freezing, or you were running away, or you prepared yourself for fighting. To defend yourself. So these are the unconscious parts of our decision making. So a book I started recently reading, and I can highly recommend it, is the book from Martha Beck. It's called Finding Your Own North Star. And Martha is talking about the essential self and the social self in this book. And I thought it was interesting because this is exactly what we can exactly have the parallels also to the conscious and unconscious decision making. As I said, the conscious is more logical, it's more rule-based driven, it is more calculating because the social self has the rules. It knows what's accepted in social, in our society. It's reasoning, it's thinking about what kind of decisions you should make in order maybe to fit in or to please others. And then you have the essential self, which is really more the unconscious part of us. This is really our soul, our spirit that is making decisions that are really true for you. So the first part from intuition, or how you can define intuition, as I said, it can be found in our unconscious decision making, and it's a very unconscious behavior, and it is knowing without consciously thinking about it. So it's knowledge without thinking about it, without reasoning about it. And even if you're not really, consciously there, you still know what to do. And this is exactly how I felt in that very moment of that, situation. I was sitting in that conference where that speaker started talking. There was no logical reason for me to leave the room. It was not that he was throwing knives at me or the audience or something really obviously dangerous, but deep down I felt I have to leave. And this knowing without that logical reasoning, this is a very, very important part and essence of our intuition. So the second part the second point we can define intuition and identify intuition is it happens really, really fast. And again, you might have experienced it in your own life probably, where you make decisions or you have to make decisions quick. Like, it's whether it's a really a life or death situation where you have to make a decision now, or it is about maybe someone had an accident of your relatives and you have to make a decision whether they have an operation or something else, and there is not there is not a lot of time for you to gather information and to really have a reasoning about it, but yet you have to make a quick decision. And then also in situations where you might have a bit more time, but eventually you're ending up making a decision that you had all along, right from the beginning. The person asking you something to decide upon, hasn't even maybe finished its sentence yet, but you already know the answer to it, although you haven't even thought about it logically. So intuition is something that happens really, really fast, and also is something that is just not, okay, I'm doing this decision, but on a long run, it will turn out to be a very good decision. And so the third point is that intuition is effectively charged. What does that mean? It means that you have a very strong feeling about it, a strong emotion. As I said, in that moment where I sat in a conference, I had this very strong emotion of, I have to leave now. It was really, really strong. I felt it in my body. I felt it like I felt something clinging and clenching and, shrinking in me. And I was, I don't know. It just really felt something I have to do now, because also my body depends on the well-being for me to leave this room. And so it is not just something that happens in your head, you think about it, it is in your whole body. You can feel it in your whole body, whether through a very strong emotion or maybe physical thing, like your stomach is kind of, like really tightening up, or you are starting clenching with your teeth, or you're getting nervous playing with your hands, or you're getting maybe hot flashes or cold showers, all these things. Something really is happening within your whole body. And so to bring it onto one sentence, if someone asks you what is intuition and you want to, say something smart about it, then you might want to use that phrase here that I picked up from a paper. I will also link it in the descriptions box down below. It is from Dr. Amit Kumar Gosar and Dr. Renati Solomon. And they say intuition is how people rapidly detect coherent patterns in complex environments. It is how they generate solutions that work without the luxury of limitless time. I think that really nails it down. I couldn't say it any better. So now that we clarified the theory behind this whole phenomena of intuition, let's have a look on what shamanism has to say about this. First of all, what is shamanism? Something I'm constantly repeating in my videos, but I think it's just important to understand so that you have the background, and in case you've forgotten or you're new here, so I'll repeat it again. Shamanism is like an umbrella word for a lot of different techniques that are used specifically in indigenous tribes and from indigenous people in order to change their consciousness and to get in contact with spirits. So you might heard also about the term animism. This is more the theoretical background of shamanism, where people think that everything has a spirit, everything is alive. But shamanism also goes a step further. It's not only that people know about or believe that everything has a spirit, but also it is put in practice through getting in touch with the spirits. And this involves a lot of different techniques. So it is a more practical approach. And it's not something that only shamans can do, but it's something everyone can do. We can all connect with spirits. It's just a matter of, learning the techniques and be open about the possibility that this can actually really be done. And so from a shamanic point of view, we have three worlds. We have the upper world, the lower world, and the middle world. And the middle world is our everyday world. And here we have the so-called ordinary and the non-ordinary reality. The ordinary reality is your everyday life. You can see me here right now speaking and talking, and, you see my physical shape and all that. This is the ordinary reality. And then we have the non-ordinary reality, which is where, we can connect with spirits. In order to get into this non-ordinary reality, to connect with spirits, we have to change our consciousness. And here we go. Consciousness is the magic word. And so when we change our consciousness, we not only, leave our everyday life, the logical way of thinking, the logical way of experiencing our lives, but we are entering the possibility to also connect with spirits. And here you have the direct connection to your own intuition, because I think intuition is nothing else than your own spirit. It is your spirit telling you through your body, through your gut feelings, through your, I don't know what it is, the decisions you should make. And it is so quick and so accurate on the decision making because your spirit knows a lot of stuff your head doesn't. And it is not only your own spirit, but also your spirit animals that are in this, in the non-ordinary reality. That is your spiritual teachers, your spiritual helpers. They are all there for you. And if you change your consciousness in order to enter the non-ordinary reality, all you do is just really tap into the wisdom of your own spirits, the wisdom of the spirit animals, of your spirit animals, of your spiritual teachers. And here is intuition just right at your doorstep, telling you all the things you want to know. And this is how I would say, intuition is related, or it can be explained through shamanism. It's nothing else than the non-ordinary part of our everyday life, where we get in touch with helping spirits, and they will tell us what to do in every moment. And so intuition is something that happens really fast because your spirits already know the answer. It's always there. It's right there. There's no need to think about it, no need to gather more information. All the spirits that are helping and they are compassionate with you, they already know the answer, and they have a much, much bigger overview of the whole situation. They can kind of, also look ahead into what will come, and all the facts are intertwined in a way your logical mind would never be able to process all these points and all these, facts. And I mentioned that in one of my other videos, how you can use shamanic techniques to make decisions, through using your own body, through card reading, through shamanic journeying, because all you need to do is just to connect with your own spirit and with your helping spirits. And there you have your intuition. And the more you practice this, the more you really have access to this information. Just like with me, when I was in that conference, I didn't need to do a shamanic journey. I didn't need to ask my spirit animal in that very moment. I just felt right away that something was really off here and I had to leave the room. And I trust my intuition because I know that it always, tells me the truth. It always has good intentions in mind for my own life, and it always gives me the best solution for everyone involved in a situation. This is why it is so valuable. And this is why I highly recommend for you to really learn to get in touch with your own spirit, with your intuition, and with your helping spirits. I've experienced it a couple of times where people were on stage trying to do weird things, with the audience. As I said, asking them to merge, asking them to exchange energies, asking them to have, like a common prayer for something that, I don't know, I wasn't even sure if the person, we were praying for had actually given permission to send healing energy or something like that. So there were a lot of shady things from my point of view happening. And that's why at that point, I also want to highly, not warn you, but recommend to be careful when you are going on these kind of conferences, when you are getting more familiar with spirituality, you're meeting new people, you might go to a shamanic healer or to a personal coach or whatever. Really trust your intuition. This is it's so important, and I can't emphasize it enough to trust your own intuition on with whom you want to work with whom you listen to, with whom you're spending your time with, because your body will tell you if this person has a genuine interest in you, or if that person is maybe more up for your energy, he wants to have something from you, attention, energy, money, whatever it is, and is not really, playing like, or not being authentic in one way or the other. And that might not even be on a conscious level. That person might just doesn't know better in that moment, but it might harm you in a different way. So I highly recommend to develop your intuition, have your connection with your spirit animals, with your helping spirits and your spiritual teachers, so that you always know where to go, what to do, with whom to be with, so that you're safe and you can learn the things you want to learn without, being like exploited or any other bad stuff. So for me, for that day, it was like I went in and out every once in a while. Whenever I felt like I should stay and listen to that person, I did. And then there were some other people where I felt like, no, I shouldn't stay. It's something about it doesn't feel right for me. So I really stood up and left the room. And this is where Martha Beck also says in her book, in order for you to live authentic and a happy and fulfilled life, you have to listen more to your essential self. And the problem is that the essential self, so your unconscious decision making, and the social self, your conscious decision making, are not always on the same page. For me in that moment, I could have decided to stay in the room. As I said, my thoughts were, this isn't polite to stand up now, Maddie. You can't just leave. That person just started to talk about this topic, and you can't just stand up and leave the room just like that. That's not something you should do. And on the other hand, my essential self was really clear with me, like, no matter, you have to leave immediately right now, stand up and in front of all these 100 people here and leave the room, close the door, make noise. Well, not making noise, but you will make noise while you're leaving. People will realize that you're leaving, but it's okay. So having this, these contradictions between what you want to do and what you should do are not always the same thing. So I think the goal is to eventually more and more get them into alignment, that you do the things you want to do, and also your social self is supporting it. With me in that very moment, I was bringing both together, because yes, I stood up. Yes, I left the room, but I was really, I was careful to not make extra noise, to close the door really quietly. And I thought it could also just be for me to going to the toilet, just being respectful for making my decision in that very moment. And this is how you can bring the social and the essential self together. But I think more and more listening to your essential self, your intuition, people also call it the higher self, the true self. As I said, I am calling it the spirit, our spirit. This is on a long run, I think, the guarantee for you to eventually end up in a life that you will love, that you feel good about yourself, that you enjoy waking up every morning, you enjoy the things you do, you enjoy the people you're having around you, and you're just full of bliss and love. And this is exactly what Martha is saying in her book, Finding Your Own North Star. She says, basically, your essential self is the compass to your North Star. It will always show you where you have to go in every moment. If you make the intuitive decision, you will always be on the right track. And I can absolutely agree on that. I had made a lot of decisions in my life that were really against my essential self. Back then, I didn't even know what intuition was. I didn't know that I had a spirit. I didn't know that I had a higher self. And I made a lot of decisions more on my social self, where I thought about what would be good for my career, what would be good for making money, what would bring me a lot of attention and confirmation from other people. But that doesn't mean that these things were also really good for my spirit. It was once I started learning about shamanism, once I started learning, how to use these shamanic methods, that more and more my spirit came through, and I actually was able to hear my essential self, my true self again. And I could make decisions that were really, really in alignment with myself, and eventually led me to a life where every day now I'm happy, or most of the time, very, very happy person. I'm very grateful. I enjoy my life. I have the feeling that every day is getting better and better and better. And this is something everyone can achieve. And it's maybe, like you haven't listened to your intuition in a very long time, so you don't know how it feels like. And then in this case, I want to give you some tips and tricks how you can really start connecting with your intuition now. So first of all, I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and you can do this right now or after the video, and really write down the situations that you had in your life where you did something really stupid, you said something stupid, you acted on something that you were really thinking like, why the hell did I do that? Where did that came from? As you said, like, for example, you had a Freudian slip. You said something that you didn't want to say, but this was actually the truth. So just write down these situations, and all these situations where are really showing you where your essential self came through. Then, for example, I'll give you an example. For me, I had a job as a postdoc at the University of Potsdam. And I thought this is something I would like, this is something a good paid job. This is good for my career. I started being really enthusiastic about it, and more I felt this is not the right thing for me. So my essential self was really giving me a lot of signs, like with, being sick a lot of times, having not a lot of energy, just being in a bad mood, not wanting to get up in the morning to go to work, and just having that general feeling of being at the wrong place with the wrong people. And despite all these, resistance, all this resistance that I had, I still pushed myself and to deliver good work. And one day I had to give a presentation about, like, how we are going to plan things in the future and how we have to have workshop schedules and all that. And I couldn't do it. I didn't prepare anything. I was standing in front of like 50 people with nothing. It was so embarrassing, but I don't know. It was just I couldn't for the sake of my life, I couldn't come up with anything. And so I was just standing there and like babbling something and trying to make sense of that whole situation, but it was so embarrassing. And after that, of course, my supervisors took me aside, like, Madeline, what the hell was that? Like, that was the worst thing I've ever seen. So it was like as deliberately my essential self was trying to get me in a lot of trouble to get me out of this job that I didn't want to do. And so this is, your intuition telling you that you're on the completely opposite way of your North Star, that you are really on the wrong path here. And this is how you can identify your intuition, that you make decisions that are coming out of the blue, that is really against something you would normally do, that is not responsible, it is irrational, you can't explain it, and you feel like you're stupid or you lost your mind. But it is not like that. It is just really your intuition really telling you, like, for fuck's sake, you have to stop now. I was polite. I gave you signs. I gave you this. I gave you that. But now you have to really stop. I don't know how else to show you that you're on the wrong path here without even, putting you into more trouble. And you got to take this serious, because eventually I lost my job eventually. Or not losing. We came to an agreement that I wasn't the best fit for this whole position. So I eventually left. I was happy to just leave. And I think also my professor back then was happy for me that I left, because we were both not happy. And this is the point, even though you try to push yourself, you will never deliver the work that you could when you do something that you really, really enjoy and that you're meant to do. Also, if you do something that confuses you, that leaves you with a lot of headache, where you feel drained after, all these things are huge signs that you are on the wrong path and you're making your decisions upon your social self and not your essential self. So this is definitely something you can just write with your body, check in every moment, every other moment, to see how you're feeling about the things that you're doing right now, the people you are with. You feel you have a lot of energy, you feel radiant, you feel charged, you feel happy and blissful and, full of joy, or you feel like heavy, you feel bored, you feel like confused. This is also something that I experience a lot when I do something I shouldn't do, or also I forget a lot of things. This is also something that Marta wrote in her book when she mentioned that she studied Chinese, although she didn't like the language at all. She couldn't remember the characters. It was hard for her to keep them all in her head. And later on, she realized that was not because she was stupid. It was just more because she was never really interested in Chinese. Whereas other things she remembers just like that because it's something that is easy for her. So you can also ask yourself, what is easy for you? Things you remember just like that. You would think this is not something special, but other people might just not be able to do it the way you do it. So this is definitely a talent of yours, is something that is easy for you. And whenever something is easy for you and it comes to you just like that, this is also a good sign of this would be part of your true soul path, of the things your spirit wishes for you, something that your intuition would decide to go for. Please don't get me wrong. It's like when you realize right now that a lot of things you do in your life you don't like, it is not just you did something wrong. It is just like, you probably based a lot of decisions in the past not on your essential self, on your spiritual aspect, but more on your logical self, on the things you thought you have to do in order to fit into the society. So this is also something that little by little, Martha Beck calls it like, a little degree of change every day. When you feel you're doing something, just tap in with your body and see how you feel about it. And just notice it in the beginning. You don't have to change anything in the beginning yet, but just maybe you're having a little journal where you write down whenever you do, I don't know, whenever you meet with this person, you feel good after. You feel full of energy, you feel excited, you feel motivated. Whereas if you spend more time with, let's say, your mother or your dad or your siblings, you don't feel so well after. And just in the beginning, getting an overview on what's going on in your body. And then little by little, you can also write down the things that you have to do during this week, the tasks that are ahead of you. And then write down, just right out of bed, how much time you have to spend on these different things. And then you have another column where you write down how much time you want to spend on that. If you say, you have to go to work 8 hours a day, and this is what you have to do. And then you have another column writing down how much hours you actually want to be at your job. Ideally, also 8 hours or even more. But if you write down only 1 hour or not at all, then you definitely can see that whatever you're doing right now, is not the right thing for you. And then slowly but surely, you can make little changes in the way you spend your time with. Maybe you take 1 hour away from your work and you put it to something you really like doing, like playing the piano. Or I always refer to playing the piano because that's what I like. Or spending more time with your loved ones, your animals, all this. And I keep repeating it, but I'm just emphasizing how important it is to do the things in your life that you love and eventually end up doing just the things that you want to do in your life that you love. And I know a lot of people are just, like, but Maddie, this isn't realistic, rolling their eyes. I get it. I was like that too, where I thought like, yeah, it's not all about lollygagging and, having fun, but this is just a social belief, a belief that your social self tells you, because this is just a common assumption in our society that you have to work hard. Life is not, like a place where a lot of ponies and unicorns are running around and you can just lollygag all day. But who are these people telling you this? Probably they have a job on their own that they're miserable at. They're having a partner they're not happy with. So who are these people telling you all these things? Are they good reference for you? And whether if you find other people who are living their dream, who are doing the things they love, who are making enough money for them to be happy, being with a partner they're really happy, they will tell you the opposite. I tell you, it is absolutely possible to have a life where you feel most of the time 100% happy and blissful and joyful and enjoy life and do the things you love, make a big change in life, just for other people. You're helping people, you feel good about yourself, you love yourself. It is absolutely possible. This is not something, the celebrities are having to claim on themselves, but everyone can do it. But it does take the effort for you to make the decisions that are according to your essential self, to your true spirit, to your true self, and less making decisions upon your social self. And yes, that will cause trouble in your life, specifically in the beginning, when you tell people that you don't want to spend time with them anymore, when you really are true about your true feeling, when you are telling the truth. This is another big thing. I read another book from Martha Beck. I'll have it right here. By the way, I'm not getting any money for this. I just really love her books. The Way of Integrity is the other book. That's actually the one I started with. And this is exactly what she says. The more you live your authentic, true, essential self, the more you make decisions that are in alignment with your own spirit, the more you are also making authentic decisions. That will mean that you maybe tell some people that you don't like spending time with them anymore, because when you do, every time after you meet them, or if you met them, you feel drained. You don't feel well. And that is not something you want to tell someone, but if you're perfectly honest, this is just the way it is, right? And this is also a chance for them to ask themselves, why is that so? Maybe I am on an unconscious level really draining the energy from someone else because I am not loving myself. I am not, convinced that I'm a good person, but I need this attention. I need this confirmation for someone else, which is, it's not a good or bad thing, but eventually you feel when you are with someone who is in perfect alignment with themselves, they radiate, they will give you a lot of energy, they will motivate to to go after your dreams. And that will definitely have a different impact on you if you have someone in front of you who is just, in that victim mode, is like, oh, I don't know, my life is so bad, I don't know what to do. It's okay to have that every once in a while, but if you're constantly in that energy, you just want people to pity you. And this is not a nice thing to eventually experience on the other end. So to sum this whole thing up, intuition is something that happens in our unconsciousness. I think it is directly related to our spirit. Some people call it the higher self, the true self, whatever. If you listen to your intuition and you can distinguish it by being something, very warm in your body, it is nice, it is fuzzy, it is, it makes you feel good. Whatever makes you feel good, go for it. This is where you should go. And also to maybe just, as a side note, that like a lot of people say, well, but drugs make me feel good. Right? So, or food makes me feel good. Is that a good thing to do? I think it is also something that makes you feel good on the long term. Drugs make you feel good maybe in a short while, but after a while you feel bad after. Or if you eat something where you think like, I shouldn't have eaten that, after that you feel bad. Following your intuition is more like on the long run, making a lot of decisions that will make you feel better every day, and bringing you to a place where you're happy, where you fulfill, where you don't need drugs to be happy, or, stuff your face with food and these kind of things. So eventually you will reach a balance where you are, the true self, and you're living your true life. And that will express itself through being happy and fulfilled. And this is what I wish to all of you. So the last very thing I wanted to mention is how you can strengthen your intuition. And it's basically you strengthen the connection to your spirit. And you can do that through meditation, through shamanic journeying, through going out into nature and spending time with yourself. Just really, tap into yourself, observing yourself. How do you feel? Ask yourself every once in a while, how do I feel? And be honest about it. So just the experience and the practices I gave you in this video. I would love to hear from you how you experience your intuition in your everyday life. Was there something like a Freudian slip or something you did where you felt like, oh my God, that was completely out of line. I don't know why I did that. But eventually it was actually a good thing that happened because I took you out of a situation where you felt miserable anyways. And if you want to learn more about shamanism, then check out my playlist here. There are a lot of videos about what is shamanism, how to do shamanic journeying, how to find your spirit animal, and all of this. So, and also, if you are interested in having a session, a shamanic session with me, that was a good one, then please have a look down below into the description box of this video. You'll find my email contact, and you can email me for a one-on-one session where we can have a look at specific questions you have. And yeah, I would love to hear from you. With that said, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.